What's Higher Ed PodCon? Well, that's a great question. It's the first ever inaugural and first annual higher education podcasting conference put on by the EdUp Experience, EDU Alliance, and Higher Ed Pods. Join us in Chicago on July 12th, 2025, as we get together to talk about podcasting in all areas of higher education, including marketing, enrollment, student affairs and student services, teaching, learning, alumni engagement. How can you better get in front of the audience that you want to see through podcasts? That's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to have podcasters, producers, students, strategists from all over higher education getting together, sharing best practices, how you take a podcast to get in front of an audience and make an impact. Join us in Chicago, July 12th, 2025 for higheredpodcon.com. That's where you register. Higher Ed PodCon is the first of its kind event. We'll see you there.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the EdUp Experience. I am your guest host today, Dr. Lori Shanderson, and I am here today with C. Scott Votaw. See, I got it right. Assistant Vice Chancellor for the University System of Georgia and Executive Director of the Georgia Film Academy. Now, there's over 25 years of global production experience across television, film, animation, digital media that you're bringing to the conversation today. So I cannot wait to learn more about everything that you do and your blend of industry insight and academic strategy. I'm glad to have this conversation. So welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Yeah, I'm probably not your traditional academic that you get to interview. I'm a little off center on that, but no, I'm really pleased to be here today. Thank you.
Well, you know what? Being that you just made that comment, why don't you do this then? Tell us a little bit about your journey, from working in international media to leading the Georgia Film Academy under the University System of Georgia. Tell us a little bit about how this happened.
I can't really start the story. I would do it a disservice if I didn't mention I struggled in school. So I was not an ideal student. I had a couple of mild learning disabilities, which were really not diagnosed at that time because it wasn't a thing, and so I struggled a little bit. And but a testimony to educators that didn't give up on me, right? That didn't just say, "Oh, you're never going to accomplish anything." So I think for me, it's a full circle coming from where I was originally. I jokingly tell my friends, I'm sure there's quite a few of my high school teachers that are turning over in their graves thinking I'm a vice chancellor of a university system now. But, considering where I came from, but it just shows that anybody can accomplish anything. And even things that tend to maybe can define us in a negative way really don't define what we can accomplish in our lives. So I kind of wanted to start with that because it really brings it into context. And I had a great career. 25 years film and television in Los Angeles. I've worked globally, pretty extensively in Europe and in Asia, and in the U.S. So that was a great experience for me. So I have produced and I have directed and I've written, been in content creation for a good part of my life. I didn't go to school for that. I kind of learned the hard way. And so what we've done at the Film Academy is exciting to me because we're making it more available to young people today to be able to get into this amazing, space of content creation and entertainment. Then, as far as that, then I once I kind of retired from the Hollywood scene and working in entertainment, I just stumbled into academia and started doing some teaching, did a little bit of curriculum writing. Then I wrote all the curriculum for the state of Georgia for the technical college system for workforce training, and then was brought into the University System of Georgia and the Film Academy to start this amazing program in for film training throughout the state of Georgia. So it's been this is my 14th year in education. So I guess I'm not a novice in the education sector, but it wasn't my first job.
Well, this is exciting. I've never spoken to anyone in the film industry ever. And, I always have so many questions. It's such a fascinating industry that takes place mostly behind the scenes. I think the end product is what we mostly consume, but everything that goes into it is just an enigma. We don't know what's going on. So I'm happy that you're here today. I imagine with like the Tyler Perry studio in Georgia, like there are so many more opportunities for individuals who want to go into film to do it in Georgia versus now having to go to California. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I had to pack my car like it was a suitcase and drive across country to even begin to think about getting into the industry. Now, Georgia is, I think we're number 3 in the United States, number 5 or 6 in the world for film production.
Well, what drew you to combine your production background with higher education and workforce development?
It wasn't purposeful. If you ask me, how did I get here? I wasn't planning on going here. This was not something that was on my radar, a career goal. It was something that once I got in front of some of the students and got working with them, it just kind of sparked something within me. Like, wow, I really enjoy this. This is fun. And then I'm really good with logistics and operations and strategy and high level thinking. And of course, when you produce a movie, you have to be able to juggle a lot of balls. And it's kind of the way it is in education, the higher up we go. So I've created a lot of programs, a lot of curriculum. And, just the Film Academy itself is, I think we're close to 15,000 students that have gone through some of our classes. We've offered 15,000 classes in film training here in Georgia to get students ready to go to work in this amazing industry. I mean, a couple of years ago, we were about $4.2 billion worth of production here in the state of Georgia. It's a record number. It's we have more, I won't say more. I think we have about the same square footage of soundstage space here in Georgia as Hollywood has. So we're a major player in this industry.
Tell me about this producer role. How would you describe that role in terms of higher education? So like the producer role is as blank is to blank is to blank. Because I don't know what producers do. You always see the producer there and then you see the director. I can't tell you what anyone does. But I'm just curious.
The producer pretty much pulls the whole project together. And we'll do the development and making sure that, you got to raise money to do development and you hire your actors and you hire directors and you get your script. And then once you get the money raised to do the production, then you go into production and you oversee that. And you're dealing with millions of dollars being spent in a very short amount of time, weeks, months. And then you have to get everything organized and put together in processes. And you've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of creative people working together for a common goal, that's kind of unique because they each have their own discipline, their own expertise. They each have their own job to do, right? And the end result is a culmination of all of that creative talent put together. It's not just one director that makes everything work. I mean, it's a huge team of creative people. And then then you have to post-production and get it ready, deliver it, get all your contracts in line, and then you get your money. So it's a business first and foremost. I think that's where most people that consume entertainment think it's an artistic form. In my opinion, it's a business, and we just sell art. We sell, content. So and then if you say, how does that liken to education and being in higher ed? It's kind of like balancing the same thing, especially if you're in a fine arts school or you're dealing with, professors that are very creative or in the arts. It's no different than having those are the same people that are on set. They're just creative talents. They have a skill set. They've spent their lifetime perfecting that craft and that art. And it's managing all of those things together for the good of the student instead of the good of the project.
I see.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I have a million questions because I think that there are some lessons that you can take
Yeah.
from the film industry and how you produce a film. I mean, and the biggest one that I see, knowing the very little that I know right now, like what I'm thinking about is you have all of these different people that come together to produce one product, which is that movie. And I think as successful and as some movies have had the power to touch us in so many ways, that's not just one person's vision,
Right.
maybe ultimately, but then all of the people that contribute to this vision and being able to, I guess, share that vision so that it's executed into a very successful end product, like that is amazing. And I think that's what we do in higher education, albeit somewhat differently, but I love thinking about it that way.
It's a corporate effort for a singular result. And you can have as much time with me as you want. I have all afternoon free, so you can keep me as long as you want it. So no, it's very much in the similar vein. We tend to lose focus on the, maybe the academic side, or just the tasks that we're required to do, not just for academia and but for if we have accreditation issues we have to worry about. We have to worry about all kinds of government rules and regulations and state rules and regulations. And then governance by the chancellors and the Board of Regents here in Georgia that, provide governance over the universities and the technical colleges here in the state. It's a lot of stuff, moving parts, but at the end of the day, the end result, like the movie, is the student. And that student is a culmination of a lot of people's efforts over the course of 4 years, 2 years, 6 years, right? And it's a lot of input gets put into that student, and then they go out and they make their own mark, just like that, and they can do things that can touch your heart and impact society, and just also have a life. They can be productive citizens. They can monetize all this wonderful education they've gotten over their lifetime. It's really very, very similar. The only thing is that movie, usually you make a movie and it stops.
Right.
When you touch a child, you touch a student, that can impact the world for the next 50 years.
As do some very good films.
Sure. There
Right.
are some that last the test of time. You're right.
Well, tell me, the Georgia Film Academy is often described as the national model from what I've read. So how would you define its mission pretty much, and how does it align with the broader USG goals?
So the Film Academy came about after the governor had commissioned a study on the effectiveness of students coming out of the universities in the state and the technical colleges being ready to go into the workforce. So the study showed that students were not prepared. I mean, go figure, right? I mean, that's kind of like the age-old, that bridge. So the Georgia Film Academy, and actually we are a collaboration. We are a 3-system alliance. We are the University System of Georgia, where the governance is held. We partner and work closely with the Technical College System of Georgia and their 22 institutions around the state. We have 26 universities in the state of Georgia. And we also work with the Department of Ed. And so we are basically creating training and curriculum we've done from middle school all the way up through MFA programs at some of our institutions. And the purpose of this training is to bridge the gap between the amazing education you get at our public institutions here in Georgia and the ability to monetize that within the workforce and to be ready to go to work. So we create, a bridge, and it's getting additional education, additional training. It's very much experiential learning, hands-on. It's that connective tissue between what we get a lot of times in school and then what the industry needs day one so you can be, you can monetize it. And I say monetization, and people go, that's not really an education term. But it's true, because at the end of the day, I can't buy my jacket. I can't drive my car. I can't own a home unless I can monetize my skill set, right? And we that's our job, is to make sure we bridge that gap. Our the instructors we have for the Film Academy. So, again, we have students from all over the state. We have folks that are in four-year institutions. We have technical college students. We do adult learners through our professional education division, which is non-credit. We work with private institutions around the state, HBCUs. Every student in the state of Georgia whose college becomes part of the collaborative can then access this training for their students. And basically, it's another tool in the tool belt, right? If you think of the professors, they give the students a tool belt when they graduate, and it's full of things that are going to make them successful.
Right.
Well, we just are one more tool, and we can help them also bridge that gap on how to use those tools effectively to have a successful career.
I mean, you spoke earlier about, workforce development and the idea of providing more opportunity because, the outcomes were not reflective of, I guess, the effort of committing to degrees. So how is GFA contributing to the state's economic development and talent pipeline? And can you tell us, do you work with production companies, unions, and studios to ensure that students are prepared and employable? I know you mentioned the experiential learning piece. What do some of those partnerships look like?
Higher Ed PodCon is coming. Go to higheredpodcon.com. That's higheredpodcon.com to learn more.
Well, you're prepared. You did your homework. I'm impressed because we are very unique. I would say there's nowhere on the planet. I mean, we are globally recognized as the leader in this education initiative, training for that. Now, I'm not trying to say that we're USC or Tisch or anything like that, because that's not our goal. Our goal is to bridge that gap. So we work really closely with, again, all the universities, the technical colleges here in the state, but we also work with industry. So we have partnership with Disney, NBC Universal, Netflix, Hulu, all the major production companies, Assembly Studios, Trilith Studios, it used to be Pinewood. And so we connect with all of the different production entities that are here in the state, and we place students in what's called covered craft internships, which is experiential learning for a semester embedded into the production. So now they have to go through a lot of training to get there, but that's the golden carrot, so to speak. It is highly competitive, which also breeds excellence. We're probably one of the most balanced organizations as far as opportunity, because being public education, if you are HOPE or Pell eligible, which is financial aid, federal and state, it doesn't cost hardly anything to go to GFA. So any student can take these classes and benefit from them and go to work in this amazing industry, making six figures a year. But we also have one more unique thing. The state of Georgia, which is traditionally a right-to-work state, right? We have contract with the unions. So that's very unusual. We're the first that's ever done that statewide. And we work very closely to monitor workforce needs, and then we can accelerate certain areas. We can expand training in certain areas where we see need, and we can pull back training in areas where we see that there's a surplus. So we constantly are adjusting our model to meet the needs of what's going on in Georgia and the workforce, as well as meeting the needs of students and finding alternative ways, because they can work in streaming, live entertainment, sporting or esports or any of the other type of content creation sectors if they train with GFA, because we train for the top level Marvel movies and the Disney films. But it's a great partnership. Disney puts probably over 100 students a year on their programs that are filmed here in the state of Georgia. So it is a collaboration of, the state and the tax money that is entrusted to us from the legislature and from the governor's office, the partnership with the university system and the governance of the chancellor and the board of regents, and the technical college system and our private institutions, along with industry and the unions. I mean, it's an amazing partnership. I think that's why what makes us so unique.
It sounds amazing, but it sounds like, and help me unpack this a little bit, because the limitations of what I understand are about to show. There are a lot of students that don't have access to technology, which might impede their ability to even know about programs like this, to become excited about it, or to know that it could be a way of life for them. So I'm curious to know what strategies are in place to ensure access to GFA programs for underrepresented, and underserved student populations across Georgia. How do you partner maybe with HBCUs and technical colleges and maybe rural institutions to expand opportunity?
Well, the unique part is all of our partner institutions. So let me explain. So we operate as a consortium. We are not a school. Okay. That's the unique part of what we do and how it's inclusive. We are an academic unit, right? That we take students from their home institutions and we train them under the guidelines that are set up by the consortium model, which is all the institutions have an equal vote. And we do the training and send them back to get their degrees. So the credit is held at the home institution, not at the state level. But we certify them as workforce ready through our contracts with the union. And, that the Georgia Film Academy certification has value within the industry. So they'll hire Georgia Film Academy graduates over maybe some other programs. I'll tell you the other unique part I didn't mention before that you'll find interesting is, so we don't hire like professors to teach our courses. We hire industry experts only. So we have over 1,000 years represented in our team and in our staff that actually work with students, and myself included, over 1,000 years of experience in entertainment represented within our training force. We have over 60 people that work for the GFA, and it's been amazing. I mean, we have some incredible veterans from this industry that have so much to give to these students, and they love it. They love every minute of working in that environment.
So how do you evolve to keep pace with like virtual production, animation, gaming, artificial intelligence in entertainment?
You're asking all the hard questions. So no, it's good. It's good. So I'm not afraid of any of that, right? So many people I see are afraid of what they don't understand. Mm-hmm. I'm not afraid of AI. I'm not afraid of where we're going. Virtual production really was painted as a panacea for production. It's not. It's just a tool. So it's not, it didn't ever materialize to be as great as they thought it would, or as bad as they thought it would be to the industry. So you know what I'm saying? When new technology comes out, it's always kind of like the highs and the lows are really huge, but the reality is probably more in the middle.
I think it's because we've seen technology used for evil in so many instances, and knowing the power of AI and not understanding it, I think that is what creates the roadblock. I mean, definitely has for me. And it's through many conversations that I've not been as anxious about it, but I have to admit there's still a level of trepidation for me when it comes to AI, because I see how powerful it is. And,
Did you ever interview Saul Khan from the Khan Academy by chance?
Not yet. Well,
so
not
he's
sure
great. He said that we owe it as people that behave well, are good actors in our society. We owe it to the next generation to embrace the technology and not be afraid of it. Because if we stick our head in the sand, then only the bad actors in the world will have it, and our world will not be a pleasant place to live in. So we owe it to embrace it and not be afraid to get into it. And are we going to make mistakes? Sure. But even if you go back and look at the Industrial Revolution, it changed the landscape of our country and the world. And the same conversations were being had, right? Oh, it's going to destroy artistry. It's going to, there won't be any more handmade chairs. There won't be any handmade items and everything's going to be manufactured. But look what it's done for the economy of the world. It's allowed people that could never afford a car can have a car. And jobs have sprung up that never were thought of before. Same thing during the computer age. Do you realize when I went to school, it was cheating to use a calculator?
Yeah. I mean,
Right?
even my kids, they couldn't use certain calculators that could do formulas. I remember that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we go through these evolutionary things in education, in culture, in commerce, and it all adapts. But I think a lot of us get so tied into our routine of we've done this, we've done it for 20 years. This is the way it should be, especially in the arts. We silo ourselves off, and we want to pretend that we can exist in a silo and train our students in a silo, and they'll be successful. But the reality is, all those silos are merging together, and we have to be open, and we have to put our own egos aside and be open to what's best for the student. And I think that's difficult in some of our education environments. People don't want to put their ego aside. There's
a lot of ego and a lot of history. And, before we get to our last question, I've got to just mention this because this is what AI reminded me of. Do you remember that movie, Running Man, with Arnold Schwarzenegger? So remember, he was the butcher of Bakersfield because he supposedly was in the helicopter, and they superimposed his image over the other wrestlers, and they blamed him for something, and it wasn't. I mean, we're seeing this now come to fruition, and we're seeing this play out right now. And I think this is where you think about the power of artificial intelligence and how it can warp reality, or how it can mask something that's, I don't know.
Well, it's going to change. It's going to change how production is done. It's going to change what consumers consume. So the traditional way of making movies, that may be in jeopardy to the new technology. But what are the kids going to do with this technology to create something that we haven't even thought of yet? See, that's where we forget that with this kind of technology, there's bad, but there's also opportunity for amazing creativity and growth. And this is maybe a way to introduce the arts back to our young people that, they can't get off their phones, right? But so how do we bring the art back to them again, right? We have to be creative and let young people help us figure that out. We can't just expect them, no, you have to go to the ballet. No, you have to go to the opera. If you don't do that, you're not really an artist. Well, they're not going to accept that. We have to reach them where they are to a certain degree and bring that amazing art to them in some form that draws them to that practice.
And thank you for bringing the balance to it, because I will say the reason why I mentioned how I feel about AI is because I know that there are many people like me. And the more conversations we have and the more we can discuss and talk about how it can be used in a positive way, especially in higher education, I think lends itself to the credibility of this being an equally appropriate learning opportunity for students, and just another way to enhance their learning and to move us forward as a society. I think so, but there's still many of us screaming about it.
No, I agree. Students are even a little afraid of it. This is not just people in higher ed. I think everyone's a little intimidated. I do want to say, though, I think the future could be really amazing, because if you think about an AI assistant for a professor, right, that can sit there and watch the learning of each student that's sitting there real time and go, wait a minute, this student's not getting it. They're not understanding it. Let me differentiate the instruction immediately to them so they can instantaneously stay up and stay in touch with the rest of the class, instead of waiting to midterms to find out I've got a kid that's struggling and trying to figure out what to do. And on the other side, students, I believe it came back, students are more likely to talk to a chatbot and ask them a question than raise their hand and ask the professor in class, because they're afraid of being shamed by other classmates, or they're embarrassed to ask, or they feel stupid because they don't know. But they'll ask that chatbot and they'll get help from that because that feels like something safer to them. So again, utilizing this technology not to replace the professor or the teacher or the instructor, but to help make them more effective at their jobs.
I love that. I mean, and yet you just gave two examples of why I will now be even more comfortable, because I think those are great examples, and I think that's great application of AI.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, C. Scott Votaw, Assistant Vice Chancellor for the University System of Georgia and Executive Director of the Georgia Film Academy. A lot of good things happening in Georgia right now relative to film. We are so happy to have you here to talk about this today, and I'm sure that you'll be back for another episode, but we do appreciate your time and everything that you share with us about film.
Well, thank you very much, because my heart is definitely for the student and for their success. And I'm very honored to be included in this podcast. Thank you. I'm welcome to come. We'd be welcome to come back anytime.
Well, thank you. And there you have it, everyone. You've been EdUp'd just now again. And on behalf of Joe and Elvin and everyone on the EdUp Experience podcast series, thank you for spending your time with us. And for the rest of you out there in podcast land, should you want to know anything about higher education, go over to where you find your podcast and type in the EdUp Experience. And guess what? You are going to see so many podcasts related to higher education and every area of higher education, including accreditation, where yours truly hosts Accreditation Insights, a part of the EdUp Experience portfolio of podcasts. So we hope to see you all back again soon. Thank you again for joining us today. And everyone, stay safe.
Did you buy your tickets yet? Higher Education's first podcast conference is coming July 12th. Go to higheredpodcon.com, higheredpodcon.com. Get your tickets.